Okay, so these two, the previous two could be answered by anyone. So I'd encourage other people to respond to that, to, maybe to the end of this video or to the first one, like with their opinions on this issue, men, women, whoever. But these two questions, the person who emailed me wanted them just to be answered by women. Okay. So question number 3 is, it has been suggested that many women support castration as a form of revenge, as if it were simply a throwback to less civilized times. For example, in American Indian societies, it is certainly true that any man found guilty of rape would have been castrated by the women. Do you think that this is correct, and that despite all the detailed arguments, women are merely seeking retribution if they support castration? Okay, well, I think that it really would put you off if you lived in a tribal society, and you knew that if you were found guilty of raping one of the women in the tribe, that all the women would gang up on you, hold you down, and castrate you. I think that might be a deterrent. And it would have been much more likely that you would be caught out in a small community like that. But yeah, I don't really think it would work the same way in the societies that we live in, because people often don't get caught for the things they do, and especially rape, which is usually a crime with no witnesses other than the victim. Yeah, so it's very hard to get a prosecution on that, and that's when the victim actually is willing to come forward and go through the whole legal system, which is very traumatic and not guaranteed a positive outcome. Okay, so I don't know necessarily if women would support castration as a form of revenge. I think it's more that sexual violence is massively pervasive in our society, and not just against women either. Men suffer it, children of both sexes, but it is more likely if you're female that you will be a victim of sexual violence. It's something like, let me try to remember, I think I can only remember the ones for child sexual abuse, which is, and obviously this isn't absolute statistics, but it's something like 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys in Australia, which is pretty heinous. Yeah, so if you get through childhood without being attacked sexually, you're pretty lucky. Yeah. Getting back off my tangent, what I mean is that I don't think it's about revenge. I think people, and women especially, want it to end, right? And chopping off someone's balls seems like a bit easier than investigating the social and, emotional causes behind why men would act like this, because it's not just, rape isn't just about violent offenders that jump out from behind a bush. Rape can be about, men who live in society, work jobs, have children, have wives, people like them, they present well, just normal people, supposedly. And obviously something's gone wrong there. And chopping off their balls isn't necessarily going to make them stop or deter them from doing it in the first place. We got to investigate what is causing this, instead of just cutting off body parts and hoping for the best, essentially. Yeah, I don't think there is I think more than anything else in our society, there's more of a denial that sexual violence is as pervasive as it is. So it's not like women are sitting around ganging up together going, yeah, let's castrate them. It's more like no one's talking about it. And obviously being raped, going through different forms of sexual violence, it can make you very angry. It can be like the anger of that person then gets put into you, and then you have to bear it as well as them, But I really don't think that, yeah, it's hard to answer. It's a very difficult question. Okay. And I'm sorry my answers aren't straightforward, but it's just not a straightforward issue, is it? Question number 4. In your experience, do you find that more women than men support this? From existing polls on the internet, it would seem that far more women think that sex offenders should be castrated. However, that may not be true, so what are your views on this point? Like I was saying before, I think women have kind of got their heads in the sand on this because it's just too close to home. They don't really want to think about it any more than they have to. But I think that men, nice men anyway, are probably more outraged by rape than perhaps women are. And I've heard many times, I've heard men basically say, like that sex offenders should be thrown in jail and have the key thrown away, throw them in jail, throw away the key type thing, or even that they should be given capital punishment sentences. I don't really hear women talking about these issues. I personally, as you can tell, think there could be other solutions, much more long range, very difficult to organise. There are some organisations that have been on their way to dealing with these issues. There's an organisation called Shine that works out of South Australia, and they developed a rape kit which they took around to high schools. They divided the boys and girls up, and they educated the boys on what was rape and what was appropriate and caring sexual behaviour. They took surveys as well, and they found out that something like, I think it was, they gave the boys a list of questions saying, in what instance would it be okay to force a girl to have sex with you? And obviously none would be the answer, but some of them were, if she was dressed provocatively, if you bought her a drink, if you'd had sex with her before, if you knew lots of other boys that had sex with her, that kind of stuff. And I think it was 68% of the high school boys said that at least one of the answers that they were given was correct. Which shows that, it's social attitudes. It's not spur of the moment, oh my God, I'm overcome by sexual lust, I must go out and rape a woman. It's more ingrained into our society than that. So that is my very long, drawn out, completely non-concise answer to your questions. So I'm sorry about that. I encourage anyone to respond to these and leave them as a response to my video so that liddlejenuk can find them. Yeah. Alright, see ya.